What if everything we thought we knew about fidelity and betrayal was, well, wrong? What if it had nothing to do with the physical act itself and everything to do with the promises we make? In this explainer, we are diving into a spiritual view on intimacy that might just challenge everything.
Okay, so let's jump right in with these two words, fornication and adultery. We all feel like we know what they mean, right? But in the Arreqqana worldview, the real difference between them isn't about morality. It's not about law. It's about something way, way deeper. And here it is. This is the fundamental shift in thinking. For the Arreqqana, the physical act is secondary. What truly, truly matters is the integrity of the promise. And we're not just talking about spoken vows, but the invisible, energetic commitments you form with another person. Which, of course, brings us to our first section, a question of promises. Now, before we go any further, we absolutely have to get our heads around the core metaphor that underpins this entire philosophy. It's called the weaving of souls.
So, I want you to imagine for a second that every connection you have with a friend, a lover, a parent, is a literal thread of energy. And in this view, you are actively, consciously weaving a sacred bond with that person every single day. It's a living connection.
So what happens when a promise within that connection gets broken? Well, it's not just a social slip-up or a personal failing. It's seen as causing a real harmful distortion in these sacred threads. It's like an energetic fraying and unraveling that causes deep disharmony. This quote, this just gets right to the heart of it all. The betrayal isn't the physical act. It's the silence, it's the secrecy, it's the moment you forget or choose to ignore that sacred thread you promised to weave. That is where the damage, the unraveling, truly begins. Okay, with that in mind, let's apply this whole framework to our original question. Here we go. Fornication versus adultery, and what makes them fundamentally different. And this table just lays it out so clearly. Look at fornication, the act of creating a new thread. It's not seen as inherently negative, not at all, as long as it's grounded in total clarity and mutual truth. Adultery, on the other hand, is specifically about breaking an existing vow, about dishonoring a thread of trust you've already committed to weaving. And this part is key. Notice there's no moral shame. Instead, there is absolute spiritual accountability for the energy you put out into the world. The term they use for adultery, zakracha, really drives this point home. It's a rupture of integrity. And it's not just a personal thing. It's seen as a deep fracture that affects three core parts of your being: the thread of the connection itself, the flame of your own spirit, and even the ancestor, which represents your entire energetic lineage. It's serious stuff. So that brings up a pretty big question, right? If it's not just about a formal wedding vow, then what actually makes a bond sacred? That brings us to the conditions for clarity. It really all comes down to these four conditions. First, you've got sacred clarity, being fully aware of what's being exchanged. Second, mutual truth, being brutally honest about your real intentions. Third, thread recognition, honoring the energy line you are creating, no matter how brief the connection. And finally, ancestral awareness, knowing that this act echoes through your entire lineage. Basically, nothing is ever truly casual if you're not fully conscious of these things. So this means that an act of fornication can become spiritually harmful. But again, let's be clear, it's not the act itself that's the issue. It's when it violates these principles, when it involves deceiving someone you're already bonded with, or using intimacy for manipulation, or just plain disrespecting an existing sacred bond. That's when it crosses the line. And what I find really fascinating is that this worldview actually creates space for what they call sacred casual bonds. These are connections that are totally transparent and held in a ritual way for specific purposes, like for healing, for celebration during festivals, or even for exploring compatibility. All of it done with complete clarity and accountability. Which leads us to our final section, honoring the thread. So after all of this, what is the one big idea we should walk away with? Well, this entire complex worldview can actually be distilled into one single guiding question, a question you can ask yourself to figure out the true integrity of any intimate act. And that's it. That is the ultimate test. It has nothing to do with what society says or what some ancient text commands. It's a moment of deep, personal, spiritual accountability. Did you honor the sacred connection you willingly chose to start weaving? And maybe this ancient teaching from a temple scroll says it best. It's such a powerful, vivid reminder
that these sacred connections demand our full respect, our full awareness, our conscious intention. You just can't play with fire. And so, we're left with this final thought. And it's not just a philosophical point, it's more like a personal inventory, a question to take with you. What threads are you currently weaving in your own life? And how consciously are you holding them?